Welcome back everyone. In case you missed it, I'm playing every mainline Pokemon game. I made my way through Red and now it's time to start on Blue. Let's do it. Once again, I named myself and my rival, thinking about things I didn't like, and with that, my rival's name is Onion, as I also hate onions. I got to pick my starter and I figured I want to vary out my starter choice. I always choose Bulbasaur, so this time I'm gonna choose Squirtle, fitting for Pokémon Blue. I named it Koopa, named after the Mario enemy, and proceeded to use Koopa to annihilate Onion's Bulbasaur. Fitting name for my rival, as we all know that this is Onion Turtle. Anyway, I delivered the parcel and made my way through Viridian Forest, training up Koopa to learn Bubble, which it thankfully gets at an earlier point than Bulbasaur's Vine Whip. This allowed me to gain the type advantage against Brock, who we'll tackle now. Koopa was able to bubble his way through the gym, knocking Geodude out in 2 hits and Onix in 3. A much easier start to the game than with Bulbasaur, but that's about it for easier. I was struggling to get through Mount Moon with just Koopa, even though while making my way through, it did evolve into Wartortle, so I went into the grass to catch myself a new team member. Rattata. I caught it and named it Salem, after one of my friend's cats. This helped me to gain some coverage against the grass and electric type Pokemon present in Mount Moon, letting me take out the Super Nerd, grab my useless fossil, and get us to Cerulean City. Now this is where I'm going to pick up 2 extra team members. The first being Sandshrew, who I caught and named Jackhammer, as Jackhammer's dig, just like Sandshrew. My 4th team member was going to have to wait however, as I had a battle with Onion to tackle. He led with Pidgeotto as usual. I tried using Jackhammer but it didn't do much in terms of damage, so I sent out Koopa to take it on. However, it kept missing due to Sand Attack and only managed to get 1 critical hit off on Pidgeotto before being taken down. I sent out Salem, who made quick work with the rest of its HP. This is why you always grow your team early, even if it's not by much. Next up was Abra, who is free, so I sent out Jackhammer to continue training it up. I kept Jackhammer out for Rattata, which I landed a lucky crit on, leading me to take it out. Then comes Bulbasaur, who ended up finishing Jackhammer off. Salem came back out and was able to take out Bulbasaur with a couple of Hyper Fangs, and with that, Onion was defeated. Up ahead on Nugget Bridge, I once again contemplated using the Nugget exploit, but decided against it just because effort. In a patch of grass next to us, I caught my 4th team member, Bellsprout. I caught it and named it Audrey 2 after the plant from Little Shop of Horrors. I was going to need this for Misty's gym, as it's surprisingly difficult if you don't choose Bulbasaur. With Audrey 2 on my team, I gave Misty's gym a shot. Against Staryu, I put it to sleep and set up a couple of growths, which allowed me to take down Staryu in 1 hit. Starmie came out next, which Audrey 2 took a sizable chunk of his health out with a single Vine Whip. All it took was a little more, and Starmie went down, earning us the 2nd gym badge. On my way to get the SS ticket from Bill, Audrey 2 also evolved into Weepinbell, which was fun. I got the ticket and made my way down to Vermilion City. This is where I was able to pick up my 5th team member, Meowth. I caught it and named it Cash Kit, a combination of Cash and Kit. Not my proudest name, but it is what it is. I took to the SSN, where I battled Onion once again. I let Cash Kit take a crack at dealing with Pidgeotto, which, despite being lowered by a crit, was able to pull through and take it down. Raticate was handled by Audrey 2, which used the broken Gen 1 Wrap to take it down. Kadabra was next, who actually posed a threat. I sent Salem out, who managed to take it out. For Ivysaur, I kept Salem out, which I weakened with a Hyper Fang. Salem was low, so I got a Tail Whip off on him before it was defeated. I sent out Cash Kit to finish the job, and with that, Onion was defeated. I got the HM for cut, caught a random Bellsprout to teach it to, and sliced down the tree, ready to take on Lieutenant Surge. While battling the trainers in the Vermilion Gym, Jackhammer evolved into Sandslash. I can already see this being the MVP. Let's tackle Surge and see what it can do. Sandslash's slash took out Voltorb in 2 hits, and Pikachu was down in 1 due to a critical hit. Surge didn't really deal any proper damage against Jackhammer, half because he can't, and because of that, Raichu was no trouble for me. I wonder whether this fight will actually be hard one day. Now this fight is over, I think it's time to claim my 6th team member. That's right, I want to have a full team before the 4th gym, which for context is 4 more Pokemon than I had at this stage in Red. Earlier on in the game, I caught an Abra, who I named Barter. You may see where this is going. I made my way through Diggler's Tunnel before making my way out and talking to this kid who wants an Abra for a Mr. Mime. I completed the trade and claimed Marcel the Mr. Mime, which I had no choice in the name for as it was traded. While yes, Alakazam is better than Mr. Mime in every way, shape and form, I wanted to experiment with different Pokemon, therefore I want to give Mr. Mime a shot. Psychic type is also busted in Gen 1, so I want to make sure I have one to work with. It was going to take some training up, but a combination of boosted XP gain and a good typing made that easy. I made my way through Rock Tunnel, once again raw dogging it without Flash, and made my way to Lavender Town. Not long after I got out of Rock Tunnel, Salem evolved into Raticate, so that's fun. I made my way to Celadon City, and it was there that I chose to take on the gym. Though, quick side note, I don't have a super effective team member against Grass. This is gonna be interesting. Erica led with Victory Bell, which I responded to with Marcel. Its psychic type moves are going to be very useful against the poison types. Victory Bell managed to get Marcel down to 1 HP because Gen 1 Wrap is busted. However, Marcel pulled through and took down Victory Bell. Tangler isn't a poison type, so I sent in Cash Kit, who managed to get a lot of chip damage in, but fell to Tangler's bind. I sent in Jackhammer, who managed to finish off Tangler with a slash. Last up with Vileplume, who I sent in Marcel for. I tried to heal him up, but Vileplume took it right back down again and eventually knocked it out with Thrash. I sent in Cooper to get a couple of tail whips off on, which helped me to take it out with a combination of Bite and Confusion, securing our victory against Erica. I headed back to Lavender Town, where I took on Onion. This is a fight I accidentally skipped over last time, so I'm going to cover it this time. He led with Pidgeotto, which I used Cash Kit for, as I wanted to get a bit of training up done on it. It got it into the reds, but fell due to the 1 in 256 glitch. I sent out Orgy 2 to finish the job. Gyarados comes next, which Orgy 2 puts to sleep. This lets us set up a couple of growths, and take Gyarados down with Mega Drains. Growlithe is next, which Jackhammer one-shot with Dig, as he did with Kadabra, surprisingly. Then comes Ivysaur, who Marcel handled with Confusion, leaving our rival defeated once again. Once I got to the top of Lavender Tower, I used my Pokédoll like I usually do, and saved Mr. Fuji. Now it's time to head to Cycling Road, where I was able to catch my 6th and final team member, Doduo. I caught it and named it D'Artagnan, after one of the 3 Musketeers, as Dodrio has 3 heads. I decided in order to add this team member, I was going to have to box Salem. He did well in the early game, but because I have Cash Kit, I don't really need another normal type attacker on my team, so I retired Salem in replacement with D'Artagnan. Before I headed to Fuchsia Gym, I traded my team in the adjacent grass, which resulted in D'Artagnan evolving into Dodrio and Cash Kit evolving into Persian. Good times. Anyway, now it's time to take on Koga. Jackhammer was the MVP of this fight, one-shot in Coughing, Muck, and his second Coughing. His Wheezing was a little bit more tough, as our speeds, so I had to... well... shit. The day that Koga's Wheezing proves to be a challenge is the day that I admit that I like Charizard. Anyway, easy win. Let's move on. I got the HMs from the Safari Zone and headed to Saffron City to take on Silphco. Marcel was the MVP of this part of the game, easily handling the poison types of Team Rocket. Before I reached the boss, however, I got to chop some onions. Pidgeot leads, who Cooper is able to take out with his newly learned Surf. I switched to Marcel for Gyarados, as I was able to teach a Thunderbolt for coverage, a move which I really need to deal with my rival's Gyarados. Cooper came back out for Growlithe, who was one-shot by Surf. Then comes Alakazam. There's no right answer for this, so I sent out Orgy 2 to get a Toxic off on it. He used Toxic, but couldn't stay out, so I switched into D'Artagnan, who outsped and used Fly to get in the extra damage. With a crit on Fly, Alakazam was taken down. Then comes Venusaur, which I kept D'Artagnan in for, with the type advantage of flying helping me to take out, defeating Onion. This battle helped Cooper evolve into Blastoise, which we love to see. I've almost got a fully evolved team. I'm just waiting on Razor Leaf with Orgy 2 to evolve him, which it thankfully gets before level 50. Next fight to tackle is Giovanni, who led with Nidorino. I let Cash Kit take it down, which he was able to do with a few bites. I kept Cash Kit in for Kangaskhan, which I used a couple of Screeches on. I got it down to 1 HP, but its 3 times powered Rage took Cash Kit down. I sent in Audrey 2 to finish the job. I kept Audrey 2 in for Rhyhorn, who had one-shot, fully healing herself in the process. I let Marcel take on Nidoqueen, which it took out with a couple of confusions, ending Giovanni's reign in the Silphco. Now that I actually can, I took to Sabrina's gym, where I wasn't sure how to handle her psychic types again, but that didn't stop me from giving it a shot. I let Cash Kit lead, who I used a couple of Screeches on. The Abra line famously have awful physical defense, which is what I'm hoping to prey on in this fight. Mr. Mime came out to set up barriers, which is going to cause issues and throw a wrench in my plans. Once again, Venomoth is here for some reason, which D'Artagnan was able to take down. Then the ace, Alakazam, who I used Cooper for. Surf was able to wheel it down, but Alakazam though and recover was going to be tough. I switched my strategy to Tail Whip, which I was able to get some off on Alakazam before Cooper fell. D'Artagnan came back out and here with a Fly, taking it down and winning us the Marsh Badge. I made my way down to Cinnabar Islands, surfing the 7 seas and using this as an opportunity to further train up my team. Audrey 2 learned Razor Leaf, which means I finally got the move I needed and evolved it into Victory Bell. I got the key and entered Cinnabar's gym. Cooper is going to be the star member of this battle, so you know he's going to get the most training within the gym trainers. Then comes Blaine. Growlithe, Ponyta and Rapidash all went down in one hit, which was surprising. Arcanine tanked the first hit, but didn't last much longer than that. Another very easy badge. I think this team might be better than my red team, chat. Good news, the Viridian City gym leader is back. And it's Giovanni. Wow, who could have known at this point in life? Alright, let's take this fucker down for the last time this playthrough. He led with Rhyhorn, who I countered with Orgy2, who took it down in one hit with a Razor Leaf. I kept Alpha Duck Trio, who I was also able to take down. Orgy2 didn't really carry a counter on Nidoqueen, however, so I sent in Koopa, who was able to take it down. I kept Koopa off Nidoking, who surprisingly got one shot on it. Then comes the ace, Rhydon. Despite being underleveled, we had 4 times strong moves on our team, so Rhydon was easy, and so was the whole fight. I expected better from the last gym leader. Now it's time for the Elite Four, but first, I gotta chop more onions. That joke doesn't work. I don't chop onions, I don't like them. He led with Pidgeot, who I sent Jackhammer into. It managed to land 3 crits with Slash, which took down Pidgeot. Rhyhorn was dealt with using Orgy2's Razor Leaf. Gyarados came out, which I sent Marcel in to deal with. Yep, Electric type is so much better in this gen. I really need one next time I play through Kanto. Growlithe was dealt with by Koopa's Surf, and then came Alakazam. I sent in Cash Kit to get some screeches off on it, which didn't work at all, as it was one shot by a critical Psybeam. Jackhammer also fell to Alakazam. This was going well. I sent out Marcel, thinking Psychic would resist Psychic. It did, but Alakazam got Marcel low. I decided to keep using Thunderbolt, but unfortunately it didn't get anywhere. D'Artagnan took out Sabrina's Alakazam, so I let it do its damage to Onions. Its fly took it down low, but Recover undid all of my progress. But after a little bit more brute forcing, I was able to deal with Alakazam with a combination of a critical hit fly and a finishing blow. Then came Venusaur, which I kept D'Artagnan in for. I got a Drill Peck in, but that was all I was able to manage. The last 2 Pokemon I had was Orgy2 and Koopa, both of which weren't really the answer to Venusaur. I sent out Orgy2 however, as this allowed me to exploit the poison powder cheese that I talked about in my Pokemon Red video, winning me the fight. I worked through Victory Road, trading up against the trainers and wild Pokemon, this time choosing to ignore the Moltres that resides here. I also forgot to pick up the Master Ball because I'm an idiot. Once I got to the league however, I walked in, ready to take on the Elite Four. Lorelei came first, where my dumbass got the type chart mixed up and therefore sent out Jackhammer. I got surprisingly far, but Jackhammer did end up falling to Dugong. I sent out Orgy2 to finish the job, where I also realised that I could use it for the rest of the fight. Therefore I kept it out for Cloyster, who hit one shot with a Razor Leaf. Slowbro set up Amnesia for some reason, which I ended up ignoring with a critical hit, taking it down. When Jigs came out, I wasn't going to be able to keep an Orgy2. I sent out Marcel, as I actually didn't have anything to counter Jinx on my team. Marcel's attempt was futile, so I sent out Cash Kit to slash it, which hit a crit due to its high speed. I finally get to exploit this, at the league, which, yay. I kept Cash Kit out for Lapras, who took it down to yellow before falling to Hydro Pump. I sent Orgy2 to finish off Lapras, winning us the battle against Lorelei. Bruno came next, which I sent Jackhammer in to deal with. His first Onix was taken out in a couple of digs. D'Artagnan was going to be the MVP of this fight, being Flying type, and thus one-shotting Hitmonchan and Hitmonlee. I sent in Orgy2 to finish off his second Onix. Then the ace, Machamp, which I switched back into D'Artagnan for. Machamp was adamant on setting up the bugged focus energy however, so it went down quickly, earning us the victory without even breaking a sweat. Agatha came next, who once again I used Jackhammer for. However, Agatha predicted the dig and switched into Golbat, so that missed. Slash hit some crits on Golbat and that allowed me to take it out. Gengar came back out again and immediately gets switched into Haunter. This is a weird as fuck choice, but Haunter ended up going down to dig in one hit anyway, so at least it wasn't completely useless. Gengar comes out and actually stays out this time, which allows me to hit it with a... never mind, Confusion wants to fuck me over, and because of this, Gengar took down Jackhammer. Marcel came out as it was safe to. Gen 1 Ghost isn't actually strong against Psychic, meaning that Marcel was able to get the rest of the fight handled, taking out Gengar, Arbok, and her second Gengar. Why I didn't just do this from the start, I'll never know, but that's Agatha taken care of. Lance is next, and he leads with Gyarados. I switched in Marcel to gain the type advantage with Thunderbolt, which unfortunately wasn't enough to KO, allowing Gyarados to hit me with a Hyper Beam, knocking me out. I sent in D'Artagnan to finish the job. Dragonair comes next, which I sent out Koopa for. It landed a crit with strength and tanked a Hyper Beam with ease, so Dragonair was defeated. His second Dragonair came out, which Koopa landed a Blizzard on, knocking it into the reds and KOing it with a strength. Aerodactyl was handled by a Surf, and then the ace. Dragonite. I intended to Blizzard it, but it took out Koopa with a Hyper Beam. I sent in Pt.2, which ended up choosing Dragonite, as it knows Agility, a Psychic type move. And with Toxic Stalling and Growth set up easier than ever, Lance was defeated. Now there's just one final battle left with the worst vegetable ever. Let's go chop some onions, and trust me, I won't be crying. Pidgeot came out first and tried to whirlwind me, and hit me for most of my health due to Pidgeot's superior speed. I got it down to 1 HP, but unfortunately Jackhammer fell. I sent in D'Artagnan to finish the job. I sent in Pt.2 to attempt to get a Toxic off on Alakazam, but it got one-shot by a Psychic. Why do all the grass types have to be Poison type in Gen 1? I decided to send in Cashkit, who got a crit slash off, and outspeeding led to Cashkit toppling Alakazam. Rhydon was next, which I sent out Koopa for. One surf later, and Rhydon was taken care of. Marcel came out to tackle Gyarados with Thunderbolt, which it did in a couple of hits, and Arcanine was handled by Koopa in a couple of surfs. And then for the final Pokemon of the game, Venusaur. I decided to send out Venusaur's arch nemesis, D'Artagnan, who got greedy against and tried to set up a Solar Beam, allowing room for D'Artagnan to get off one last Drill Peck, winning the battle against Onion and securing my place as champion for the whole region. As with Red, I'm going to go through my whole team, ranking everyone on the tier list, and awarding out MVP and LVP badges to the best and worst team members. Let's do this. Jackhammer, A tier. It's a really good team member, I still like Sandslash a lot, and while his speed wasn't the best, it still proved its worth in many battles. Marcel, A+ tier. While I think an Alakazam would have fit the spot better, there's no denying the worth that Marcel had, especially when dealing with the late game Gyarados that I struggled to deal with in Red. D'Artagnan, A tier. While I was a late addition and I didn't get much time to bond with Doduo, I can't deny the value that D'Artagnan had with the team. Flying is good in Kanto, and Drill Peck is much better than Fly. Koopa, A+ tier. Choosing Squirtle was different, and it did take some getting used to, and defo made some battles harder than others. Blastoise was really good, and provided the strength of a water type that it needed, better offensively earlier due to access of Surf. Cashkit, C- tier. This team has been really balanced, and while Cashkit did do its share and even toppled Alakazam, I didn't realise it only got Slash in level 50, meaning it only saw proper usage in the league. Still better than my Arcanine though, who didn't even topple one powerhouse. Pt.2, A tier. Toxic Stalling and Growth proved to be powerful in many battles, and overall the grass typing is amazing in Kanto. It helped for Misty, who'd otherwise be really hard, and provided great value throughout the playthrough. My MVP of this playthrough was, honestly, really hard to award. The whole team was really balanced. It's hard to pick just one to award the best. But I'd have to give it to Koopa, my starter, who was really good as early as Surf and had the coverage to deal with Dragon. It was helpful all throughout, so it gets MVP status. The LVP pick is, of course, Cashkit. It was good, don't get me wrong, but didn't provide much value to the team, and had zero coverage in its moveset. Overall, I have to rate this team an 8.5 out of 10. It was a really balanced team, and everyone had their matchups that made them good. Cashkit wasn't the sweeper that I'd hoped however, and I didn't end up having an S tier member, so it was knocked down a peg. Still an amazing team that I do like a lot. I'll be back with Pokémon Yellow, a game where I'll have to try and make Pikachu work without getting sick of it and evolving it. Thank you for watching.